We have an opportunity in talking to one of the great scholars who is gracing our city of Los Angeles, Dr. Tony Martin. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Brother Kwaku.
Okay, where are you from?
Well, I've lived in Boston for 20 years, and I've been in the U.S. for 24 years. I was born in Trinidad.
Okay, what is your area of specialty?
I'm a historian, and I specialize over a wide range of black history. I think the area perhaps I specialize in most is Pan-Africanism, the area where the history of black people sort of, interconnects. That is where African American, African Caribbean history all come together. And within that general area, I think Marcus Garvey is the area I have zeroed in on. I've written several books on Garvey, about 8 so far, either written or edited.
If you can give us sort of a capsule or brief history of Pan-Africanism.
I think that Pan-Africanism in its modern phase began with the Atlantic slave trade. When our people were scattered around the world, I think for the first time, this caused us to think of ourselves as a global people. For the first time, we were no longer Yorubas or Hausas or whatever, but Africans. After a few generations in the Americas, many of us didn't know precisely what part of Africa we had come from. So that forced us into this global African consciousness, which is what Pan-Africanism is. During the time of slavery, this consciousness took many forms. Slaves sometimes sang songs, spirituals, what have you, that expressed a longing to get back to Africa. Very often, some slaves jumped overboard the slave ships, tried to get back. As the slaves became free, there were many emigrationist activities whereby Africans in Brazil, the Caribbean, North America, tried to get back to Africa. As things developed, this Pan-African consciousness often took the form of Africans in the Americas and in Europe too, trying to lobby politically on behalf of what was happening in Africa. In the late 19th century, when Africa was overrun by European imperialism, many Africans all over the world, tried to form organizations to lend political support. And out of that came the most modern phase of the Pan-African movement, beginning in 1900, when you had the first conference that actually called itself a Pan-African Conference. This conference took place in London, England, 1900, organized by a man called Henry Sylvester Williams. Over the years since 1900, there have been many major figures, around the question of Pan-Africanism. The most important is Marcus Garvey, who led the largest, most powerful, most impactful Pan-African organization of all time. His organization was known as the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League. It was founded in 1914 in Jamaica. It relocated in 1918 officially in the US of A, based in Harlem, New York. And Garvey's organization had branches in maybe about 1,200 locations over 40 countries around the world. Pan-Africanism has been a major influence, I think, on African struggle, especially in this century. Even after the demise of Garvey's movement, there were many other major Pan-African initiatives. There were people like W.E.B. Du Bois, who espoused a brand of Pan-Africanism. There were people like Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana, who in 1945, together with George Padmore of Trinidad, convened the 5th Pan-African Conference in Congress, in Manchester, England, which had a very great impact on the rise of the African countries to political independence. Today, Pan-African takes a variety of forms. Every time African people lobby, demonstrate, whatever, on behalf of Africans in South Africa, let us say, every time Africans here try to hook up on an intellectual basis with people in Ghana or Nigeria or wherever, these are all expressions of Pan-Africanism.
Okay, how is that being played out in today's world?
Like I said, the whole variety of expressions of Pan-Africanism, it runs the whole gamut. For example, on the artistic or cultural level, the current high consciousness in this country among African people here, concerning African culture, the wearing of African clothes, the taking of African names, yourself would be an example of this, the dashikis that people wear, the interest in African history, the efforts to reclaim African history, the increasing number of pilgrimages to various parts of Africa, to Egypt, to Ethiopia, to various West African countries, even South Africa, the interest that African people have here in a just settlement, and an end to apartheid in South Africa. All of these are expressions of Pan-Africanism today, and there are many, many more as well.